Dear friends, this is episode number 46 of the Limitation Act. We are continuing with section 18 and 19. I have cited some of the decisions. I will continue to do it now. Now we will go to 1979 Kerala Law Times KLT 699. Same as 1979 KHC 331. Vijay Raghavan versus Joseph. Vijay Raghavan versus Joseph. It arose under the Kerala Buildings Lease and Rent Control Act. Two questions were posed for consideration. We are concerned with the second question. Whether the letters by the tenant claiming set-off of the cash security given to the landlord against the rent due will be acknowledgements of the liability for rent under section 18 of the Limitation Act is the question. So he wrote letters claiming a set-off of cash security towards arrears of rent. Whether that will amount to acknowledgement was the question. The facts you will get in paragraph 1. And it was held that the admission of liability in an acknowledgement may be express or implied. It has to be liberally construed. Just as in the case of an acknowledgement, in the case of payment under 19 also, it must be evidenced by something in writing. Then the discussion is in paragraph 8. Paragraph 8 is a long paragraph, 2 sentences towards last. Though the first defendant has purported to make the above payments in full settlement of the rent due from him on the respective dates of payment, there can only be payments on account of the debt due from him, since he had no right to set off the cash security towards the arrears of rent due from him. It goes without saying that the acknowledgements and the payments mentioned above together save the claim for arrears made in the suit from limitation. So it saves those letters, they save limitation, is the finding. Next is AER 1977 Kerala 132. 77 KHC 260. AER is AER 1977 Kerala 132. Name of the division bench. Name of the case is Parameswaran and others versus Purushottaman and company and others. It was held that section 18 itself imports that an agent can sign on behalf of the person concerned. The authorization need not be in writing, and it has been held in many decisions that such authorization can be implied from the facts and circumstances of the case, signed by him or by the agent. So for for authorizing an agent, it need not be in writing. The circumstances will prove it. Unless authorized, the entry in the passbook of payment by one co-heir is not an acknowledgement of liability binding on other co-heirs. That is another question which was decided. That is payment by one co-heir, an entry in a passbook, that will not save limitation as against other co-heirs, and it is not binding on them. Next is, there is certainly a difference between 18 and 19. As in the case of acknowledgement under section 18, a payment under section 19 is also required to be recorded in writing. But under section 18, the writing must contain within itself an admission of existing liability, while under 19 it is sufficient if the writing merely records the fact of payment. An acknowledgement under section 18 only operates against the person who makes the acknowledgement and those claiming under him, but subject to the provisions of subsection 2 of section 20. A payment under section 19 saves limitation against all persons who are liable for the debt that is always subject to subsection 2 of section 20. Joint contractors, partners, etc. It is not enough to constitute an entry in the balance sheet as a valid acknowledgement under section 18 when such balance sheet is not signed by the debtor but has signed only the profit and loss account where such entry is not seen. So the signature of the person who is bound by the acknowledgement must appear in the particular document, whatever it is. Then AER 1995 Kerala 78, same as 1994 KHC 323, a full bench of 3 judges. Justice K.T. Thomas, Justice B.V. Kamath and Justice Narayana Kurup. Late Justice Kamath wrote the judgment. There you may see 1, paragraph 1, 22, etc. What are the ingredients to constitute a valid acknowledgement under section 18 have been stated in that decision. That's everything which we have already said. Next is AER 1990 Kerala 271, 1990 KHC 350, AER decision AER 1990 Kerala 271. Name of the case is Xavier versus Kashi. Earlier case I cited the full bench. There the name of the case is Pillai versus Kalyani Kutti Amma. Pillai versus Kalyani Kutti Amma. The present case AER 1990 Kerala 271, the name of the case is Xavier versus Kashi. Period of limitation for pleading: the extended period of limitation, the acknowledgement of payment in the return statement filed in a previous suit. A return statement, the acknowledgement found a place in the return statement in a previous suit. That could be taken note of and taken advantage of to found a claim for acknowledgement based on acknowledgement. And section 65 of the Contract Act was referred to. Void contract or agreement, question whether the reliance can be placed on a previous suit where there was an acknowledgement of payment in the return statement for pleading extended period of limitation. Held that the plaintiff could very well rely on the previous suit as an acknowledged order of the judge in respect of the question. There are some printing mistakes there. AER. Next is AER 1967 Supreme Court 935. Supreme Court, 3 judges, Chief Justice Subbarao, 2 judges, Chief Justice Subbarao and Justice Shelath. Tilakram and others versus Nathu and others. This Tilakram case was followed in various other decisions. Where the statement is relied on as expressing jural relationship, it must show that it was made with the intention of admitting such jural relationship, subsisting at the time when it was made. Statement setting out jural relationship is made clearly without intending to admit its existence cannot be imposed on the maker. So, mere recital of the jural relationship without admitting the present liability, subsisting, jural relationship subsisting at that time is not a valid acknowledgement. There the discussion is in paragraph 9, 10, very long paragraphs, paragraph 9, 10, 11 and 12. In paragraph 9, one decision of the Supreme Court in Shapur Freedom Mazda, Shapur, SHAPUR, Freedom Mazda versus Durga Prasad, AER 1961 Supreme Court 1236 was followed with approval. And there is a reference to 26 Chancery Division 474. In paragraph 11, I will read a few sentences. These statements, that is some documents, 3 documents were relied on by the party, and each document was considered and it was said that that will not constitute. These statements were clearly made for the purpose of describing his own rights which he was selling under the deed. But there is nothing in this document to show that he referred to the said mortgages with the intention of admitting his dual relationship with the mortgagors, and therefore of his subsisting liability as a mortgagee thereunder of being redeemed. That is, one document is an assignment, a transaction affecting the mortgage. A property which is subject to mortgage was transferred by the mortgagee. There is a reference to the mortgage, but the subsisting liability is not mentioned. It is not a valid acknowledgement. Then a second one, a statement that the plaintiff was made was relied on. That it is held that the statement that the plaintiff was made not in relation to the said mortgages, but with reference to their own rights under the said deed of sale of mortgage rights in their favor. That narration is not enough to constitute a valid acknowledgement, is the finding. The fourth document is the written statement in a suit where the right of the plaintiffs in that suit to redeem has been specifically denied. Narration of facts, mortgage is mentioned, but the right of the mortgagor to redeem has been specifically denied in that document. So that will not constitute a valid acknowledgement. This decision of the Supreme Court has been referred to in various other decisions. Next is ILR 2005, Volume 4, Kerala 173, 2005 KHC 1232. Name of the case, Matthew Joseph versus the Deputy Tahsildar. That came before Justice K.S. Radhakrishnan, who later became a judge of the Supreme Court, and me. I wrote the judgment. There a very novel argument was put forward. It is in respect of revenue recovery proceedings. And it was contended, a property was proceeded against. It was contended that that property was not available with the defendant at the time when the acknowledgement was made. Therefore, it will not bind. And what was held by us is that it is not acknowledgement with respect to any specific item of property, but the acknowledgement of the liability. There it is held, paragraph 5. An acknowledgement is in respect of a liability and in not respect of the property which is proceeded against for realization of the debt. No period of limitation is provided in the Revenue Recovery Act for realizing, etc., etc. The expression used is acknowledgement of liability in section 18. A liability could be enforced by resorting to various proceedings known to law. This is paragraph 5. The liability in the present case is one for money due to Canara Bank. Canara Bank resorted to revenue recovery proceedings, which is possible because authorized to do agricultural loans and all those things. By resorting to revenue recovery proceedings, the amount can be recovered either by attachment and sale of movables or by attachment and sale of immovable properties belonging to the defaulter or by arrest and detention of the defaulter. The nature of the remedy that could be resorted to has absolutely no relation to the acknowledgement of liability. By acknowledging the liability, a fresh period of limitation shall be computed. The liability could be enforced and the amount recovered within the same period of limitation as computed from the time when the acknowledgement was signed. The availability or otherwise of a particular mode of recovery at the point of time when the acknowledgement was made is not relevant criterion. See, the availability or otherwise of a particular mode of recovery at the point of time when the acknowledgement was made is not relevant criterion. See, this is a solitary decision on that point. For example, a person, that is innovative argument by the council. It is not our invention. For example, a person may not be having any movable property at the time when the acknowledgement was signed. This is an example, hypothetical situation. If he was having movable properties, the amount could be realized by attachment and sale of movable properties. If in such a fact situation, the defaulter acquires some immovable properties after the date of acknowledgement, there is nothing wrong or illegal in proceeding against the property for realization of the debt. Discussion goes on, long paragraph. Next is 2006 4 SEC 484, same as AIR 2006 Supreme Court 1567. That is by Justice Arijit Pasayat and Justice R.V. Ravindran. Justice R.V. Ravindran wrote the judgment. And name of the case is Prabhakaran and others versus M. Alagiri Pillai by LRs and others. It's a very, very, very important decision. You must read it. That is a mortgagee transferring the mortgaged land, mortgaged property. Reference is made to the mortgage, whether it will constitute acknowledgement is the question. So it was for redemption, and in his statement he admits, mortgagee admits the existence of the mortgage. He admits all legal incidents of mortgage, including rights and obligations of mortgagee and mortgager. That was held in the peculiar facts of that case. See paragraph 20. The said principles relating to section 19 of the old act fully apply to the acknowledgements under 18 of the new act. That is, under the old decisions you must note that section 18 of the present 1963 act corresponded to section 19 and the 19 of the present act corresponds to section 20. To summarize, a statement in writing and signed by a mortgagee can be construed as an acknowledgement under section 18 of the Limitation Act if it fulfills the following requirements. 1. The acknowledgement of liability must relate to a subsisting mortgage. 2. The acknowledgement need not be in a document addressed to the mortgagor, person entitled to the property or right, but it should be made by the mortgagee, the person under liability. 3. The words used in the acknowledgement must indicate the existence of jural relationship between the parties, and it must appear that the statement is made by the mortgagee with the intention of admitting the jural relationship with the mortgagor. Such intention of admitting the jural relationship need not be in express terms, but can be inferred or implied from the nature of the admission and the words used, though oral evidence as to the meaning and intent of such words is excluded. 4. When the statement by the mortgagee in the subsequent document, say deed of assignment, merely refers to the mortgage in his favor which is being assigned, without the intention of admitting the jural relationship with the mortgagor, it will not be considered to be an acknowledgement. And then in paragraph 20, long paragraph, examples are given. That gives you Justice R.V. Ravindran's judgment, lucid, clear. See, always you may find it a pleasure to read the judgments of Justice R.V. Ravindran. It will be very, very informative. The mortgagors, paragraph 21, I will read a portion. the mortgager's right of redemption is coextensive with the mortgagee's right of sale or foreclosure. See, any statement by either admitting the jural relationship with the other will extend the limitation for a suit by that other against the person acknowledging. It can be for redemption or foreclosure or sale, whatever it is, according to the party who files the suit. It follows that when a mortgagee makes a statement about his right to recover the mortgage amount, such statement impliedly acknowledges the corresponding right of redemption of the mortgagor. See, the mortgagee in a document says that he is a mortgagee under a particular transaction with the mortgagor, and the mortgagee who transfers the property says that he has got a right to recover the amount of mortgage by sale. That is a recognition of the right of the mortgagor to redeem, and that will amount to an acknowledgement. It follows that when a mortgagee makes a statement about his right to recover the mortgage amount, such statement impliedly acknowledges the corresponding right of redemption of the mortgagor. Further, a statement admitting jural relationship need not refer to or reiterate the rights and obligations flowing therefrom. When a party to the mortgage by his statement admits the existence of the mortgage or his rights under the mortgage, he admits all legal incidents of mortgage, including the rights and obligations of both parties, that is, mortgagee and mortgagor. We may illustrate paragraph 24. Please see this. We may illustrate as to what is a mere reference, etc., and then further down. But the position will be different if the assignment deed further stated. I will read only that. The said mortgage is subsisting, or the rights and obligations under the said mortgage are enforceable, both quotations. Or quotation, the assignee is entitled to all the benefits under the said mortgage. Again quotation, the assignee is entitled to receive the amount advanced under the said mortgage. These are all the usual sentences which may appear in a document of assignment, a document of sale made by the mortgagee to a stranger. Those are all indications of the jural relationship, subsisting jural relationship being admitted by the transferor who is the mortgagee. Whereas he only narrates the incident of mortgage, that is not enough. That is one example given by the Supreme Court is a mortgagee transfers. Mortgagee has a right to get the mortgage amount by sale. He says that I have got that right and therefore you will also have that right. That is an admission of his right. That is a statement of his right to do it. To that extent, the jural relationship and the rights flowing therefrom are admitted, are stated. That indicates that impliedly he also admits the right of the mortgagor to redeem, subsists. Therefore, that will amount to an acknowledgement for a suit for redemption as well. I think I have made the position clear. Please read that judgment of the Supreme Court carefully. You will clear all the doubts about the mortgagor, mortgagee sells the property, what will happen to the assignee of the mortgagee, whether he will be liable, whether there will be acknowledgement, what amounts to acknowledgement, what is the difference between only a statement of the right, statement of the transaction, previous transaction, narration only, or whether the binding nature, subsisting liability is also transferred. All those make the distinction in the case of extension of the period of limitation under section 18, fresh period. So please carefully read that judgment. I have read only a few sentences. Next is 1989 2 KLT 628. Savitri Kunjamma versus Narayanan by Justice Padmanabhan. you may see paragraph 6, 7 and 8. 7a portion I will read. It is true that the acknowledgement merely renews the debt and does not create a new right of section. Shapur Freedom Masta's case was referred to. AER 1961, Supreme Court 1236. Though it need not be accompanied by a promise to pay, even impliedly it must acknowledge a liability. Intention to admit the subsisting dual relationship itself need not be expressed, and it can also by implication from the nature of the admission. Though oral evidence is excluded in construing the words used in a statement, surrounding circumstances could always be considered. It is also true that generally speaking, courts lean in favor of a liberal construction of the statement. That does not mean that when no admission is made, one should be inferred. And that is AER 1971, Supreme Court 1482 was relied on. That is Lakshmi Ratan Cotton Mills Company Limited versus the Aluminium Corporation Limited, AER 1971, Supreme Court 1482. And in the next paragraph, that is paragraph 8, a Supreme Court judgment in Tilak Ram and another versus Nathu and others, which we have seen. AER 1967, Supreme Court 935 was referred to. We will see the rest of the decisions in the next episode. Thank you.